Have you ever held a piece of history in your hands? Not just a replica, but something real, something that has witnessed centuries unfold? Today, we're going to journey back in time, over 1,000 years, to uncover the story of an object so extraordinary, it feels like it belongs in a fantasy novel. This is the story of the Horn of Ulf. Imagine this. You're walking through the hallowed halls of York Minster, one of the world's most magnificent cathedrals. Your eyes are drawn to a glass case in the Undercroft Museum. Inside rests a large curved horn, about 2.5 feet long, glowing with the soft, creamy color of old ivory. It's covered in intricate carvings, mythical beasts, griffins, unicorns, lions, and dogs chasing deer, all surrounded by swirling vine patterns. It's breathtaking. But this isn't just any decorative object. This is the Horn of Ulf, and it's not just a horn. It's a 1,000-year-old land deed, a symbol of power, and a survivor of history's most turbulent times. The story begins with a Viking lord named Ulf, son of Thorold. Ulf was a powerful Anglo-Scandinavian nobleman who lived in Yorkshire around the year 1030, during the reign of King Nut the Great. Nut, as you might know, was the king who ruled a vast North Sea empire that included England, Denmark, Norway, and parts of Sweden. It was a time of immense cultural mixing, where Viking and Anglo-Saxon traditions were blending together. Ulf was a major landowner in the region, holding vast estates. As he grew older, he had a decision to make about his legacy. He had 2 sons who were constantly quarreling over who would inherit his lands. Fearing that their squabbles would tear the family and his legacy apart after his death, Ulf decided on a radical and brilliant solution. Legend has it that one day, Ulf rode to York Minster. He filled his great drinking horn with wine, knelt before the high altar, and in a powerful, symbolic gesture, he drank the wine and presented the horn to the church. With this single act, he gifted all his lands, as well east as west, to God and St. Peter, effectively donating his entire estate to York Minster. The horn itself became the legal title deed. In an age before widespread written documents, physical objects, or charter horns, were a recognized and binding way to transfer property. This wasn't just a donation. It was a masterstroke of medieval estate planning. By giving his lands to the church, Ulf ensured they would be protected and managed in perpetuity, preventing his sons from fighting over them and destroying what he had built. But here's where the story takes an even more fascinating turn. The horn itself is a puzzle. It's made from an elephant tusk. Now, you might be thinking, elephants in 11th century Viking Yorkshire? Not quite. This tusk traveled a very long way. Scientific analysis has confirmed it came from an African elephant, so how did it get to England? The carvings on the horn provide the biggest clue. The style of the intricate animal and plant motifs is not Viking or Anglo-Saxon, it's Islamic. Specifically, it belongs to a style known as Fatimid, which flourished in Egypt and North Africa during the 10th and 11th centuries. However, the artistry is so fine that experts believe it was likely carved by highly skilled Islamic artisans working not in Egypt, but in a workshop in southern Italy, probably in Salerno or Amalfi. These port cities were major hubs of trade, connecting the Islamic world with Christian Europe. So let's piece this global journey together. An elephant tusk from Africa is shipped to a workshop in Italy where it's masterfully carved by Islamic craftsmen. It then makes its way, perhaps through trade or as a diplomatic gift, all the way north to the hands of a Viking lord in England. And he, in turn, uses it to sign over his lands to a Christian cathedral. It's a breathtaking example of the interconnectedness of the medieval world. A single object that tells a story of trade, art, and cultural exchange spanning continents and religions. It completely shatters the simplistic idea of a dark age, where different cultures were isolated from one another. The Horn of Ulf is physical proof of a vibrant, globalized medieval society. For centuries, the horn and the lands it represented remained safely with York Minster. It was a prized possession, a testament to its benefactor's piety and its own legal power. But its story was far from over. The horn had to survive one of English history's most destructive periods, the Reformation. In the 16th century, under King Henry VIII, monasteries and cathedrals across the country were dissolved, and their treasures were seized for the crown. Priceless artifacts, libraries of illuminated manuscripts, and sacred relics were melted down, burned, or lost forever. The Horn of Ulf, with its precious metal mounts, was a prime target, and indeed, it disappeared. For years, it was believed to have been stolen or destroyed. The Minster lost both its symbolic deed and the vast estates that came with it. The trail went cold for over a century. Then, in 1675, a remarkable thing happened. The horn reappeared. It was found in the possession of Thomas Fairfax, a retired general from the English Civil War and a passionate antiquarian. How he acquired it is a mystery. Some say his family had protected it during the chaos of the Reformation. Whatever the truth, Fairfax, recognizing its immense historical importance, returned it to York Minster. His son, Henry Fairfax, even had the horn restored, replacing the lost medieval silver-gilt mounts with new ones, which you can still see today. These new mounts are inscribed with the story of its loss and recovery, adding yet another layer to its incredible history. The horn was safe once more, but its adventures weren't over. In 1829, a man named Jonathan Martin, a religious fanatic, hid inside the minster after evening service and set fire to the choir. The blaze was catastrophic, destroying the medieval choir stalls and the magnificent organ. The Horn of Ulf was kept in the vestry nearby, and it was only saved from the inferno by the quick thinking of one of the cathedral staff. It survived fire, just as it had survived plunder and war. Today, the Horn of Ulf rests peacefully in its climate-controlled case, a silent witness to 1,000 years of history. It's a Viking relic, an Islamic work of art, an Italian craft piece, an English legal document, and a Christian church treasure, all in one. It tells a story of a Viking lord's clever plan, of global trade routes that defy our modern assumptions, and of the resilience of a single object against the tides of history. It represents the clashing and blending of cultures that created the England we know today. So, the next time you think about history, don't just picture dusty books and dates. Picture the Horn of Ulf. Picture the African elephant, the Italian workshop, the Viking lord kneeling at the altar, the chaos of the Reformation, and the flames of the Great Fire. It's a reminder that history is not a simple, linear story. It's a rich, complex, and often surprising tapestry, woven from countless threads. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can see a piece of that tapestry up close. A piece that looks, for all the world, like a magical horn from a forgotten age. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating history, and let me know in the comments what historical artifact you'd love to see in person. Until next time, stay curious!
Can you imagine plowing your field and stumbling upon a treasure nearly 2,400 years old? That's exactly what happened to Gonzalo Crespo, a 62-year-old farmer from La Rambla in the beautiful region of Córdoba, Spain. It was a seemingly ordinary Wednesday morning when Gonzalo hopped on his tractor to dig a furrow. Suddenly, the machine hit something unexpectedly hard. He thought it was just a large rock, a common nuisance for farmers. But when he got down to take a closer look, he realized this was no ordinary stone. What he had unearthed would soon make headlines across Spain and captivate the archaeological world. Gonzalo had discovered an incredible piece of history, an ancient sculpture weighing over 150 kilos, or about 365 pounds. Realizing this was something special, he did the right thing. He called a friend in the civil guard who guided him on the proper steps to take. Soon, agents from the Nature Protection Service, known as Seprona, arrived at his farm, along with experts from the Department of Culture and Historical Heritage. Gonzalo said he truly understood the magnitude of his find when he saw the astonished looks on the technicians' faces. It was a moment of pure disbelief and excitement. The sculpture he found is a stunning piece of Iberian art, depicting a carnivorous animal. At first, experts thought it might be a lioness, a common motif in ancient Iberian culture. But upon closer inspection, another theory emerged. It could be a she-wolf, poised in an attack over another smaller animal. The style is characteristic of zoomorphic sculptures from the Iberian period, which dates back centuries before the Roman conquest of Spain. Cristina Casanueva, the delegate of culture, confirmed the piece is of great value and is estimated to be around 2,400 years old. Think about that for a moment. This sculpture was created around 400 BC. At the same time, classical Greece was flourishing and the Roman Republic was just beginning to expand. What makes this discovery even more fascinating is where it was found. The sculpture was buried about 60 centimeters, or roughly 2 feet, beneath the surface of a plot of land Gonzalo had inherited from his parents less than a year ago. And here's the kicker: there were no previously registered archaeological sites in that area. This wasn't a known historical location. It was just a regular field. This suggests that there could be more hidden treasures buried beneath the farmlands of Andalusia, just waiting to be discovered. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, only the needle is a massive, ancient stone carving. One of the leading hypotheses about the sculpture's original purpose is that it might have been part of a funerary monument. In Iberian culture, powerful animal figures like lions or wolves were often placed atop pillars or as part of elaborate tombs for the elite. They were seen as guardians, protectors of the deceased in the afterlife, symbolizing power and strength. The aggressive posture of the animal in Gonzalo's find, attacking its prey, reinforces this idea of dominance and protection. It would have been an imposing sight, a clear statement of the status and importance of the person buried nearby. This single piece opens up a whole new window into the beliefs and burial customs of the people who lived in this region thousands of years ago. Immediately after its discovery, the precious artifact was carefully transported to the Archaeological Museum of Cordoba. There, the real work for the experts began. The first step was to gently clean off the soil that had encased it for centuries. Every grain of dirt was analyzed, as it can provide crucial clues about the environment in which the statue was buried and help to date it more accurately. The sculpture itself appears to be in remarkably good condition, a testament to the dry Spanish soil that preserved it so well. Now, conservators are assessing it to plan for any necessary restoration work. They need to ensure it remains stable and preserved for future generations. Alongside the physical preservation, an in-depth study is underway. Archaeologists and art historians are poring over every detail of the carving. They're comparing its style to other known Iberian sculptures, like the famous Lioness of Bina, also found in the Cordoba province. By studying the tool marks the artistic style and the type of stone used, they can learn more about the workshop where it was made, the trade, networks of the time, and the specific cultural influences that shaped its creation. Was it made by local artisans, or was it influenced by Greek or Phoenician art? These are the questions they hope to answer. The discovery has also triggered a new phase of exploration back at Gonzalo's farm. The authorities have launched an urgent archaeological study and graphic documentation project for the area. This means teams will be conducting surveys, possibly using ground-penetrating radar, to see if anything else lies buried nearby. The discovery of this single, isolated sculpture could be the key that unlocks a much larger, previously unknown archaeological site. It could be a necropolis, a sanctuary, or even a settlement. The possibilities are thrilling, and it all started with one farmer and his tractor. It's a powerful reminder that history is not just in museums, it's right under our feet. And what about Gonzalo, the man at the center of this incredible story? He's taken it all in stride. Due to the pandemic restrictions at the time, he wasn't able to immediately visit the museum to see the sculpture after it was cleaned. He expressed a simple wish: since I saw it, I've wanted to examine it more closely. But he's also philosophical about it. He believes the artifact is now where it's meant to be, in a place where it can be protected, studied, and appreciated by everyone. His humility and respect for the discovery are truly admirable. He didn't see it as a personal treasure to keep, but as a piece of shared heritage that belongs to the world. This story is a beautiful example of how ordinary people can make extraordinary contributions to our understanding of the past. It's a tale of chance, responsibility, and the enduring power of history. Gonzalo Crespo's unexpected find has not only given us a magnificent work of art, but has also opened up a new chapter in the archaeology of Spain. It makes you wonder, what other secrets does the earth hold? What forgotten stories are just waiting for the right person to come along and uncover them? It's a thought that fills you with a sense of wonder and connection to the countless generations that came before us. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. It's stories like these that truly bring history to life. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next exploration into the fascinating discoveries from around the world. Let me know in the comments what you think the sculpture depicts, a lioness or a she-wolf. I'd love to hear your theories. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. History isn't just about dusty books and ancient texts. Sometimes it's hidden right beneath our feet, waiting to be rediscovered. And recently, archaeologists in Jerusalem made a discovery that brings us face to face with the daily life of a city on the brink of one of history's most dramatic events. So what did they find? A perfectly preserved 2,000-year-old ritual bath tucked away beneath the bustling Western Wall Plaza. This isn't just any old structure. This is what's known as a mikveh, a special bath used for ritual purification in Judaism. Imagine, people walked these very same steps, preparing for their sacred duties at the Second Temple, which stood majestically nearby. This mikveh offers a tangible link to the spiritual world of Jerusalem. It's just before everything changed. The team behind this incredible find from the Israel Antiquities Authority were actually working on a project to build new elevators to make the Western Wall more accessible. As they dug down, they peeled back layers of history, eventually hitting something truly special. It was a chamber meticulously carved directly into the bedrock of the ancient city. What makes this mikveh so significant is its condition. It was found sealed beneath a thick, heavy layer of debris, a layer of destruction. This wasn't just dirt and rubble. It was the direct aftermath of the Roman legion's conquest and razing of Jerusalem. In the year 70 CE, for nearly 2 millennia, this site remained untouched, a silent witness, perfectly preserved in its final moments of use. Let us dive deeper into what a mikveh is and why it was so central to life in Second Temple period Jerusalem. In Jewish law, ritual purity was essential for participating in temple services. A mikveh is a purpose-built pool that collects natural rainwater. By immersing oneself in its waters, a person could achieve a state of ritual purity. This wasn't about physical cleanliness like taking a bath. It was a profound spiritual act. Think about the context. The Second Temple was the heart of Jewish life. Pilgrims from all over the ancient world would travel to Jerusalem, and before ascending the Temple Mount, they would need to purify themselves. So the area around the temple would have been filled with these mikvehs, catering to thousands of people. Finding one in such pristine condition, so close to the Western Wall, the last remaining remnant of the temple complex, is like finding a key that unlocks a forgotten door to the past. The archaeologists described the mikveh in detail. It has steps leading down into the water basin, all hewn from the natural rock. The walls were coated with a special plaster, typical of the Second Temple period, to ensure the water wouldn't seep out. Everything about its construction followed the strict religious laws governing how a mikveh should be built and maintained. Inside the antechamber of the bath, the excavation team found even more clues. They uncovered fragments of pottery, mostly jars used for storing water or oil, that date precisely to the period between the reign of Herod the Great and the destruction of the city. These are not grand treasures, but they are incredibly valuable because they are the everyday objects of everyday people. They also found pieces of stone vessels, which were common at the time because, unlike pottery, stone was not susceptible to ritual impurity. But perhaps the most poignant discovery was found within the destruction layer itself. Charred wooden beams and pieces of burned pottery were scattered throughout the rubble that filled the mikveh. These are the physical scars of the Roman siege. You can almost picture the chaos and devastation as the city burned. The mikveh, once a place of serene spiritual preparation, was violently filled with the debris of a falling city. Its purpose abruptly ended. The lead archaeologists, Shlomit Wexler-Dolek and her team, have emphasized how this discovery gives us a glimpse into the final moments of life in Jerusalem before its fall. It's one thing to read about the destruction in the writings of historians like Josephus Flavius. It's another thing entirely to touch the stones and see the scorch marks from that very event. It connects us to the people who lived through it in a deeply personal way. This mikveh was located right on the main road that led up to the Temple Mount. Imagine a bustling street filled with merchants, scholars, families, and pilgrims. This road was the city's main artery. And right there, nestled into the rock, was this private space for reflection and purification. It tells a story of a society where faith was woven into the very fabric of daily urban life. It wasn't something separate. It was part of the journey, part of the landscape. The discovery also helps us map out ancient Jerusalem with greater accuracy. By pinpointing the exact location of this mikveh, researchers can better understand the layout of the lower city and the infrastructure that supported the temple. Every find like this is a piece of a giant historical puzzle. And this piece fits perfectly, confirming what we know from ancient texts while adding rich new detail. What's next for this amazing site? The Israel Antiquities Authority, in cooperation with the Western Wall Heritage Foundation, plans to incorporate the mikveh into the new Western Wall Tunnels Tour complex. This means that soon, visitors from all over the world will be able to walk down into this space and experience it for themselves. They can see the rock-cut steps, the ancient plaster, and imagine the people who used it 2,000 years ago. It will no longer be a hidden chamber, but a living part of Jerusalem's ongoing story. It's discoveries like these that remind us that history is all around us. It's not a distant, abstract concept. It's real, it's physical, and sometimes it's waiting just a few meters below a modern city street. This mikveh is more than just an archaeological find. It's a time capsule. It captures a moment of deep faith and daily devotion, frozen in time by a cataclysmic event. It is a powerful testament to the resilience of human heritage and our unending quest to connect with our past. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories from history, and let me know in the comments what you think about this incredible discovery. See you in the next video. Imagine traveling back in time, 6,000 years ago, to a world vastly different from our own. A world where humans weren't always at the top of the food chain. Today, we're diving into a story that brings this ancient reality to life. A tale of survival, courage, and community that's etched into the very bones of one remarkable individual. Archaeologists in eastern Bulgaria have unearthed something extraordinary. It's the skeleton of a young man, but this isn't just any prehistoric find. His bones tell a harrowing story of a face-to-face encounter with one of antiquity's most fearsome predators, a lion. Yes, you heard that right. Lions roamed Europe back then, and this man came terrifyingly close to one. The discovery was made at a Neolithic settlement near the modern-day town of Provadia. This site is already famous for being what many believe is the oldest town in Europe, a hub of salt production and trade. The people who lived here were part of the Varna culture, known for their sophisticated society and stunning gold artifacts. But life wasn't just about wealth and craftsmanship. It was also about daily survival against the raw forces of nature. So let's look at the evidence. The skeleton, belonging to a man in his late 20s or early 30s, shows multiple, severe injuries. We're talking deep puncture marks and fractures, particularly on his arms and legs. A team of bioarchaeologists, led by Dr. Vladimir Slavchev, meticulously examined these wounds. Their conclusion was stunning. The pattern of the injuries, their size, and their placement are a textbook match for an attack by a large cat. Given the location and time period, the prime suspect is the now extinct European cave lion. Picture the scene. This young man, maybe out hunting or herding, is suddenly ambushed. The lion, a powerhouse of muscle and claw, goes for him. He fights back, using his arms to shield his face and torso. The lion's teeth sink into his flesh, crushing bone. It's a brutal life-or-death struggle. The kind of thing we only see in movies, but for him, it was terrifyingly real. Now, here's where the story takes an even more incredible turn. He survived. This wasn't a fatal attack, at least not immediately. The archaeologists found clear, undeniable signs of healing around the wounds. The bone had started to regrow, to knit itself back together. This process, called callus formation, doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks, even months. This means that after the violent encounter, this man lived on. Think about the state he must have been in. He would have been crippled in excruciating pain and completely unable to fend for himself. He couldn't hunt, he couldn't farm, he couldn't even walk properly. In a prehistoric society where every individual's labor was crucial for the group's survival, a person with such severe disabilities could have easily been seen as a burden. But that's not what happened. The fact that he lived long enough for his bones to show significant healing tells us something profound about his community. He was cared for. His people didn't abandon him. They must have fed him, tended to his wounds, protected him, and supported him through his long and painful recovery. This is a powerful testament to the social bonds and empathy that existed 6,000 years ago. It challenges the old-fashioned view of prehistoric life as purely survival of the fittest, where the weak were left behind. Instead, it paints a picture of a compassionate society, a community that valued each of its members, even those who couldn't contribute physically. The care he received speaks volumes about their culture and their humanity. His skeleton essentially becomes a fossilized record of prehistoric healthcare. We don't know the exact treatments they used. Maybe they had herbal remedies to fight infection or knowledge of how to set broken bones. But what we know for sure is that they provided dedicated, long-term care. This act of compassion is just as impressive as the golden treasures the Varna culture is famous for. What can we learn from his injuries? The analysis showed severe trauma to his right forearm, likely a defensive wound from trying to block the lion's jaws. His left leg also had massive damage, suggesting the lion tried to drag him down. The sheer force of the bite is evident in the splintered bone fragments. Surviving the initial shock and blood loss would have been a miracle in itself. Surviving the weeks after with the constant threat of infection is even more astonishing. This discovery is one of the most direct pieces of evidence we have for a human-predator interaction of this kind in prehistoric Europe. It's a rare glimpse into the dangers of the Neolithic world. But more than that, it's a story of human resilience. It reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable violence and pain, the instinct to live is powerful. And it shows us that the bonds of community, the instinct to care for one another, are just as ancient and just as fundamental to our species. So, the next time you think about prehistory, don't just picture primitive people struggling for existence. Picture this young man, recovering from his wounds, surrounded by a community that refused to let him go. A silent skeleton, buried for 6 millennia, has given us one of the most moving stories of survival and compassion from the ancient world. It's a powerful reminder that looking after each other is one of the oldest human traditions. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. What do you think this story tells us about our ancestors? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from our amazing past. We'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time, way back, to uncover a story that might just change how you think about mummies forever. When I say mummy, what comes to mind? Probably ancient Egypt, right? Pharaohs, pyramids, and golden sarcophagi. But what if I told you the world's oldest and most mysterious mummies aren't from Egypt at all? They're from the coast of South America, and the reason they were created is a profoundly human and heartbreaking story. Let's travel to the Tama Desert in northern Chile, one of the driest places on Earth, more than 7,000 years ago. Long before the Egyptians even started their famous practices, a group of hunter-gatherers known as the Chinchorro people were living here. And they were doing something extraordinary. They were artificially mummifying their dead. These aren't just naturally preserved bodies. We're talking about a complex, deliberate process. The Chinchorro were the first people on Earth to develop this technology. And what's truly fascinating is who they chose to mummify. Unlike the Egyptians, who reserved mummification for royalty and the elite, the Chinchorro mummified everyone. Men, women, and most significantly, children, even infants and fetuses. For a long time, archaeologists were puzzled. Why would a simple fishing community develop such an elaborate and time-consuming ritual for all their dead, especially the very young? Was it a status symbol, a religious belief about the afterlife? A recent study published in the Cambridge Archaeological Journal offers a new, deeply moving explanation. The answer, it seems, might lie not in ritual or power, but in love, loss, and the universal experience of grief. To understand this, we need to look at the environment the Chinchorro lived in. While the ocean provided plenty of food, the land was harsh. The water sources in the Atacama Desert contain naturally high levels of arsenic. For adults, this was manageable, but for pregnant women, infants, and young children, it was often fatal. Archaeological evidence shows incredibly high rates of infant and child mortality in these communities. Imagine living in a small, tight-knit group where the loss of a child was a constant, devastating reality. How do you cope with that kind of recurring trauma? This is where the new theory comes in. Researchers suggest that Chinchorro mummification wasn't just a funerary rite. It was a form of ancient grief therapy. When a child died, the natural process of decomposition would take them away quickly. But the Chinchorro found a way to stop that. They developed a process to keep their loved ones with them. Let's break down how they did it because it's truly remarkable. The process was intricate. First, they would carefully remove the skin and internal organs. They would then clean the skeleton and dry the body cavity, often using hot coals or ash. After that, the real reconstruction began. They would reinforce the skeleton with sticks and tie it together with reeds. The body cavities were then stuffed with grasses, clay, and other materials to restore the body's form. They would even model a new face onto the skull using clay, often with an open mouth or eyes. Finally, they would replee the skin, sometimes using the person's own, and sometimes using sea lion skin. The finishing touch was a layer of black manganese or later red ochre paint and a wig made of human hair. What was left was not a corpse but an effigy, a statue-like figure that preserved the human form. These weren't hidden away in tombs. The Chinchorro mummies were active members of the community. Families kept them in their homes. They were carried around, dressed in clothes, and included in ceremonies. Imagine a mother grieving the loss of her baby, being able to hold, care for, and interact with this tangible representation of her child. The mummy became a bridge between the living and the dead, allowing the grieving process to unfold over a much longer period. It transformed an intangible, painful memory into a physical presence that could be seen and touched. This act of creation was a communal effort. The entire group would likely participate in the mummification process, sharing in the family's grief and working together to create this lasting memorial. This shared activity would have strengthened social bonds in the face of constant loss. It was a way for the community to process their collective sorrow and support one another. The mummies weren't seen as frightening or macabre. They were beloved family members, transformed into eternal figures. They were, in essence, art born from sorrow. This practice lasted for over 3,000 years, evolving and changing over time, but the core idea remained. It was a way of refusing to let go, of keeping the family unit whole in the face of tragedy. It shows us that 7,000 years ago, people experienced grief just as intensely as we do today. They just found a very different and very creative way to navigate it. The Chinchorro mummies challenge our modern ideas about death and mourning. They remind us that the need to remember, to honor, and to cope with the loss of those we love is one of the most fundamental aspects of the human experience. So, the next time you think of mummies, don't just picture Egyptian gold. Picture a small community on the shores of the Atacama Desert, working together to turn their profound grief into something lasting and beautiful, creating the world's very first mummies not for power or glory, but out of love. It's a powerful testament to human resilience and the enduring bonds of family. What do you think about this theory? Does it change your perspective on ancient rituals? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you found this story as fascinating as I did, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more journeys into our incredible past. See you next time? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a discovery that could completely rewrite the history of human intelligence. What if I told you that our ancestors were doing math thousands of years before the first cities were even built? It sounds like science fiction, but a new study is showing us that 8,000 years ago, People weren't just painting pretty pictures, they were embedding complex mathematical ideas right into their art. This isn't about some lost civilization or ancient aliens. We're talking about real people, the Halafian culture of northern Mesopotamia, an area that includes modern-day Syria, Turkey, and Iraq. These were some of the world's first farmers. Living in small communities around 6000 BCE, they created beautiful pottery decorated with intricate designs. For decades, we've admired these as simple, decorative art. But what if there's so much more? A recent study published in the prestigious Journal of World Prehistory has put these ancient pots under a new lens. Researchers from the University of Barcelona analyzed hundreds of pieces of Halafian painted pottery and found something astonishing. The patterns weren't random. They weren't just for looks. They followed a hidden logic, a secret language of numbers, space, and order. So, what exactly did they find? Let's break it down. The Halafian artists used repeating motifs, like flowers, bull's heads, and geometric shapes. But the way they repeated them wasn't arbitrary. The number of petals on a flower, the number of times a pattern was repeated around the pottet, all followed a consistent rule. For example, they'd use a specific number like 4 as a base. You'd see 4-petal flowers, patterns repeated 4 times, and designs divided into 4 sections. It was a system. This concept is known as numerical congruence. It's the idea that a single number can be the organizing principle for an entire design. The Halafians seem to have been obsessed with it. It's as if they were saying, everything on this pot relates to the number 4. This wasn't just decoration. It was a deliberate conceptual statement. They understood that a number could be an abstract idea, a rule that governed the world around them. Think about what this means. This is long before the invention of writing, before the Egyptians built the pyramids, and before the Babylonians developed their famous mathematical systems. These early farming communities were already playing with numbers in a sophisticated way. They were exploring symmetry, repetition, and hierarchical structure. The researchers argue this is a form of proto-mathematics, the very first steps toward the complex math we use today. One of the most fascinating examples is what archaeologists call the rosette or flower motif. These weren't just simple daisies. The artists would create a central floral design and then surround it with other elements that mirrored its numerical properties. If the central flower had 8 petals, the surrounding patterns might be arranged in groups of 8. This creates a visually harmonious and balanced composition, but the underlying principle is pure math. Another mind-blowing aspect is their use of symmetry. The Halafians were masters of it. They used rotational symmetry, where a pattern can be rotated and still look the same, and bilateral symmetry like a mirror image. To achieve this on a curved, 3-dimensional surface like a pot is incredibly difficult. It requires planning, precision, and a deep understanding of spatial relationships. You can't just wing it. You have to visualize the final product before you even start painting. The researchers suggest this artistic system wasn't just for fun, it likely had a deep cultural meaning. These numbers and patterns could have been linked to their worldview, their calendar, or their social structure. For example, the number 4 often relates to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, or the seasons. By embedding these numbers into their pottery, which was used in daily life and rituals, they were constantly reinforcing their understanding of the cosmos. Art was their way of making sense of the universe. So how is this different from what we previously thought? For a long time, the story of mathematics started much later, with organized states and economies that needed to count goods, levy taxes, and manage large-scale construction. We thought math was born out of necessity, but this discovery challenges that idea. It suggests that mathematics may have first emerged from a more aesthetic, conceptual, and even spiritual place. It came from the human desire to see and create order and beauty in the world. Let's put this into perspective. The Halafian culture existed from about 6,200 to 5,500 BCE, the earliest known writing. Cuneiform from Sumer doesn't appear until around 3,400 BCE, that's a gap of over 2,000 years. This means that for millennia, humans were communicating complex ideas not with words, but with images and patterns. Their pottery was their book, their canvas, and their blackboard all in one. This also forces us to rethink our definition of art and science. We tend to see them as separate fields. You're either a creative artist or a logical scientist. But for the Halafians, there was no division. Their art was their science. Their creativity was expressed through logical, mathematical principles. The beauty of their designs comes directly from the elegance of their mathematical structure. The lead researchers, a team from Spain, believed this system of numerical congruence wasn't just a local fad. They found similar principles in the art of other prehistoric cultures across the globe. This suggests that the development of mathematical thinking might be a universal human trait, something that pops up naturally as societies grow more complex. It's a fundamental part of how the human brain processes the world. What's next? This is just the beginning. Archaeologists are now re-examining collections of prehistoric art from all over the world, looking for these hidden mathematical codes. Who knows what else we might find? We might discover that early cave paintings or ancient textiles also contain this secret language of numbers. The history of human thought is getting a major update, and it's incredibly exciting. This discovery is a powerful reminder that our ancient ancestors were not simple or primitive. They were intelligent, creative, and observant people with a rich inner world. They looked at the stars, the seasons, and the plants growing in their fields, and they saw patterns. They saw order. And then, with clay and paint, they translated that cosmic order into beautiful, tangible objects that have survived for 8,000 years to tell us their story. It really makes you look at a simple piece of ancient pottery in a whole new light, doesn't it? It's not just a bowl. It's a time capsule containing one of humanity's first great intellectual achievements. It's the birth of mathematics, hiding in plain sight. What do you guys think about this? Does it change how you view ancient art or the origins of science? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I read every single one. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey back in time, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of our past. See you in the next one. Imagine stepping back in time, not just a few centuries, but a staggering 9,000 years, to a world so different from ours, yet connected by the threads of human ritual, belief, and mystery. Today we're journeying to Bad Dürrenberg, Germany, to uncover the secrets of one of Central Europe's most incredible prehistoric burials. This isn't just any grave. It's the final resting place of a woman believed to be a shaman, a spiritual leader who lived and died in the Mesolithic era, a time of hunter-gatherers. The story begins in 1934. Imagine the scene. Workers digging a trench for a reservoir suddenly strike something unusual. They've stumbled upon a grave, but it's unlike anything seen before. Inside, they find the remains of an adult, buried in a seated position, surrounded by a treasure trove of artifacts. The grave was packed with flint tools, animal bones, and intricate ornaments made from shells and boar tusks. It was an extraordinary find, a rare window into the Stone Age, but due to the hurried nature of the discovery, a full, modern scientific investigation wasn't possible. The woman of Bad Dürrenberg, as she came to be known, was carefully moved to a museum, her full story waiting to be told. For decades, she was considered a shaman, but much of this was based on speculation. The full picture remained locked away in the earth. Fast forward to 2019, a new team of archaeologists returned to the original site. With state-of-the-art technology and a passion for solving ancient riddles, they embarked on a mission to finally give this enigmatic figure the study she deserved. This renewed excavation wasn't just about digging. It was about scientific detective work. They used DNA analysis, isotopic studies, and advanced imaging to piece together the life of this 9,000-year-old woman. And what they found is rewriting our understanding of early European societies. Let's talk about the woman herself. Who was she? DNA analysis confirmed she was female, and she likely died between the ages of 30 and 40. Isotopic analysis of her teeth revealed clues about her diet and where she grew up. It seems she wasn't a big meat eater, which is unusual for a Mesolithic person. Her diet consisted more of plants and fish, suggesting a unique role or status within her community. But what truly sets her apart is a specific physical anomaly. One of her vertebrae showed signs of a condition called spondylolisthesis, which could have caused chronic pain and possibly even affected her movement. Could this physical ailment have been interpreted as a sign of a special connection to the spirit world? In many cultures, those who experience the world differently, through pain or unique physical states, are often seen as having a bridge to the supernatural. And now for the most captivating part, the grave goods. This wasn't a simple burial. It was a carefully orchestrated ritual. The woman was buried sitting upright, a very unusual posture for the time. Her body was coated in red ochre, a pigment often associated with life, blood, and rebirth in ancient ceremonies. This suggests her community believed in an afterlife and took great care to prepare her for it. The items placed with her are astonishing. She wore a headdress, an incredible piece crafted from deer antlers, boar tusks, and hundreds of tiny deer incisor teeth. This wasn't just decoration. It was a powerful symbol, a crown of her spiritual authority. Imagine the sound it would have made, the sight of it in the flickering firelight. It would have been awe-inspiring. Alongside the headdress, archaeologists found a rich collection of tools and personal items. There were flint blades, bone tools, and pendants made from animal teeth and shells. These weren't just everyday objects. They were her ritual toolkit. Each item likely held a specific meaning and purpose in her spiritual practices. One of the most intriguing finds was a small, polished stone with incised markings. Was it a divination tool, a map of the spirit world? We can only speculate, but it's a tangible link to her secret knowledge. The presence of so many animal remains, deer, boar, crane, and even tortoise further points to her role as a mediator between the human and animal worlds. She was likely a figure who could communicate with spirits, heal the sick, and guide her people. The recent research didn't just re-examine the woman and her grave goods. It also revealed a stunning new detail about the site itself. The original grave, it turns out, was just the beginning. Further excavations uncovered evidence that the site was revisited for centuries, possibly even millennia after her death. Archaeologists found pits filled with ochre, animal bones, and artifacts, indicating that later generations returned to this sacred spot to perform their own rituals. It seems the shaman's grave became a lasting monument, a focal point for the spiritual life of the community long after she was gone. Her legacy wasn't just personal, it was foundational. She established a ritual tradition that endured through time. This discovery transforms our view of Mesolithic societies. We often think of them as small, mobile bands of hunter-gatherers, but the Bad Dürrenberg site shows they had deep-rooted traditions, complex belief systems, and a profound sense of place and history. They created lasting sacred landscapes. So what does this all mean? The woman of Bad Dürrenberg gives us an unprecedented look into the spiritual world of our Stone Age ancestors. She was a powerful figure, a shaman whose influence was so profound that her final resting place became a pilgrimage site for generations. Her story challenges our perceptions of the past, revealing a world rich with symbolism, ritual, and a deep connection to the natural and supernatural realms. She wasn't just a person. She was a legacy, a spiritual anchor for her people. The ongoing research continues to unveil more secrets. But one thing is clear, the shaman of Bad Dürrenberg has finally reclaimed her voice, speaking to us across a gulf of 9,000 years. Her story reminds us that the human quest for meaning and connection to something greater than ourselves is as old as humanity itself. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey back in time. What do you think about the shaman of Bad Dürrenberg? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of our ancient past. See you next time. The Black Death. Just the name itself sends a shiver down your spine, doesn't it? It conjures images of the medieval period, a time of immense fear and devastation as the plague tore through Europe, leaving millions dead in its wake. The culprit was a tiny bacterium, Yersinia pestis, hitching a ride on fleas that jumped from rodents to humans. It was a terrifyingly efficient system of transmission. But what if I told you that long before this infamous pandemic, another plague, a more ancient and mysterious one, was already making its way across Eurasia? This wasn't the Black Death we know from history books. This was a much earlier version of the plague, one that emerged around 5,000 years ago during the Bronze Age. For 2,000 years, this ancient lineage circulated, a silent threat moving across continents, before it vanished from the historical record. The mystery of this Bronze Age plague has puzzled scientists for years. How did it spread so far and wide? The key difference is in its DNA. This ancient strain lacked the specific genetic mutations that made the medieval plague so effective at being transmitted by fleas. Without that flea-based superhighway, how did it travel from person to person, community to community, across a vast landmass? It's a question that has remained unanswered, a gaping hole in our understanding of one of history's most notorious diseases. But now, a groundbreaking discovery might finally give us the answer we've been looking for. And it all comes down to a very, very old sheep. An international team of researchers has uncovered something extraordinary in the remains of a 4,000-year-old domesticated sheep. These remains were found at Archaeum, a fortified Bronze Age settlement in what is now Russia. Archaeum is often called the Russian Stonehenge for its complex, circular structure and is considered a major hub of its time. And within the bones of this single animal, they found the smoking gun, the DNA of Yersinia pestis. This is the first time we've ever found direct evidence of the plague in a livestock animal from this period, and it completely changes the game. Think about it. The Bronze Age was a time of huge societal change. People were settling down, building cities, and crucially, domesticating animals on a massive scale. Sheep, goats, and cattle weren't just a source of food and materials. They were a part of daily life, living in close proximity to humans. So let's connect the dots. We have a plague that can't be spread effectively by fleas. We have societies that are increasingly dependent on large herds of livestock. And now we have direct evidence of that very plague in a sheep. The new theory is that this ancient plague didn't need fleas to travel. It may have spread through direct contact with infected animals. Imagine a herder tending to a sick sheep, or a family consuming contaminated meat or milk. The bacterium could have passed from animal to human through simple, everyday interactions. This also explains how the plague could travel such vast distances. The Bronze Age wasn't static, it was a period of extensive trade and migration. People moved, and they took their livestock with them. A herd of infected sheep traded or driven hundreds of miles to a new settlement could have carried the plague along for the ride, introducing it to new, unsuspecting populations. Livestock, the very foundation of Bronze Age society, may have also been its Trojan horse, carrying a deadly pathogen hidden within. The implications are huge. This finding forces us to rethink the entire history of pandemics. It suggests that zoonotic diseases that jump from animals to humans, have a much deeper and more complex history than we previously thought. The rise of agriculture and animal domestication, which we see as a cornerstone of civilization, may have also opened a Pandora's box of new diseases. What's really fascinating is that this Bronze Age plague lineage eventually died out. Why? Well, that's the next big question. It's possible that as human societies evolved, our relationship with livestock changed. Maybe we developed better hygiene practices, or perhaps the bacterium itself just wasn't as well adapted for long-term survival in human hosts compared to its later, flea-borne descendant. Another theory points to the plague itself. The later Black Death strain of Yersinia pestis was so successful because it could survive in fleas, creating a persistent reservoir in rodent populations. The Bronze Age strain, lacking this ability, might have been more prone to burning itself out. Once it ran out of susceptible hosts in a given area, whether animal or human, it might have simply disappeared. The discovery at Archaeum is like finding a long-lost chapter in the story of human disease. It shows us that to understand the pandemics of today, we have to look deep into our past, to the very moments when our relationship with the natural world began to change. That 4,000-year-old sheep isn't just a pile of ancient bones. It's a witness to a forgotten plague, a key that unlocks a new understanding of how diseases have shaped human history from the very dawn of civilization. This research reminds us that the threats we face from infectious diseases are not new. They are an ancient and ongoing part of the human story. By studying these ancient pathogens, we can learn valuable lessons about how diseases emerge, how they spread, and how they can be controlled. It's a powerful reminder that our past is always present, and sometimes the biggest secrets are buried right beneath our feet. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into our ancient past as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that connect science, history, and the world around us. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into an absolutely mind-blowing discovery that's rewriting what we thought we knew about the ancient world. Imagine digging in the heart of Italy and unearthing a masterpiece from ancient Greece. That's exactly what happened in the ancient Etruscan city of Vulci, and it's sending shockwaves through the archaeological community. Archaeologists have just unearthed a stunning marble head of a Greek statue. This isn't just any statue. It's a Kori, a sculpture of a young woman, and its discovery here is incredibly rare. Vulci was a major hub for the Etruscans, a fascinating civilization that thrived in Italy before the rise of Rome. So, what makes this find so special? Let's break it down. First, the material. The head is carved from a high-quality Greek marble, likely from one of the famous Aegean islands like Paros. This tells us it wasn't a local imitation. This was the real deal, crafted by a skilled Greek artist and then transported all the way to Etruria. The journey alone would have been a massive undertaking in the ancient Mediterranean. It would have traveled by ship, a precious and heavy cargo, destined for a wealthy and powerful client. The style of the sculpture is also a huge clue. Experts date it to around 480 BCE, a pivotal moment known as the transition from the Archaic to the early Classical period. This was the golden age of Greek art, when sculptors were pushing the boundaries of realism and beauty. The head has the serene, almost divine expression that we associate with sculptures from this era, a style that would later influence artists for centuries, right up to the Renaissance. Think of it as the Mona Lisa of its time, an object of immense artistic and cultural value. This Kori head was discovered in what appears to be a sacred area within Vulci. This suggests it wasn't just a decorative piece in a rich person's villa. It was likely an offering to a god or goddess, perhaps one the Etruscans shared with or equated to a Greek deity. The Etruscans had their own vibrant pantheon, but they were deeply influenced by Greek religion and mythology. This statue could be a physical manifestation of that cultural and religious exchange. It shows that these two great civilizations weren't just trading goods like pottery and wine. They were sharing ideas, art, and even their most sacred beliefs. The question that has everyone buzzing is, who commissioned this statue? Who in Vulci had the wealth, the connections, and the desire to import such a magnificent piece of Greek art? The Etruscans were known for their powerful, aristocratic families who controlled trade and resources. The owner of this Kori was likely a member of this elite class, someone looking to display their status, sophistication, and connection to the wider Mediterranean world. Owning a piece like this would have been a major status symbol, a way of saying, "I am a citizen of the world." The discovery is also shedding new light on the Etruscans themselves. For a long time, they were seen as a mysterious people, overshadowed by their Greek and Roman neighbors. Finds like this prove just how cosmopolitan and influential they were. They weren't just passive recipients of Greek culture. They were active participants, selecting, adapting, and integrating foreign art into their own unique society. This Kori wasn't just placed in an Etruscan city. It was given meaning within an Etruscan context, likely dedicated to an Etruscan goddess. The excavation at Vulci is ongoing, and archaeologists are carefully searching for more fragments of the statue. Finding the rest of the body would be the ultimate prize. A complete Kori statue from this period is incredibly rare, even in Greece itself. If the team can locate more pieces, they could potentially reconstruct the entire figure, giving us an unprecedented look at a masterpiece of ancient art. It would tell us so much more about the artist who made it, the person who commissioned it, and the rituals it was a part of. This single marble head is a testament to the interconnectedness of the ancient world. It challenges the simple narratives of history and shows us a much more complex and vibrant picture. It proves that over 2.5 millennia ago, art and ideas flowed freely across the sea. creating a shared cultural language that linked diverse peoples from Greece to Italy. It's a powerful reminder that globalization isn't a modern phenomenon. Its roots run deep into our ancient past. What do you think about this incredible discovery? Does it change how you see the ancient world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll be keeping a close eye on the excavations at Vulcae, and we'll be sure to update you on any new developments. This is a story that's just beginning to unfold. And who knows what other treasures are still waiting to be found beneath the soil of ancient Etruria. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay up to date on the latest archaeological news, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to ancient Egypt, where an incredible new discovery is rewriting what we know about life and death along the Nile. Archaeologists have just unearthed something truly special in the Western Nile Delta. And it's a double whammy, a massive industrial complex and a Roman-era cemetery, both packed with secrets waiting to be revealed. Imagine bustling workshops, skilled artisans, and the solemn rituals of laying loved ones to rest, all happening in the same area, just centuries apart. This isn't just about finding old stuff. It's about piecing together a vibrant picture of an ancient society. We're talking about the economy, the daily grind, and the deeply personal beliefs of people who lived thousands of years ago. So grab your virtual explorer's hat because we're about to dig deep into this fascinating find and uncover the stories it has to tell. The discovery was made at a site called Qam al-Ahmar, which translates to the Red Hill. An Egyptian archaeological mission, led by the Supreme Council of Antiquities, was excavating the area when they stumbled upon this remarkable site. What they found was an extensive industrial complex dating back to the late period and the early Ptolemaic period. This puts it roughly between the 7th and 3rd centuries BC. Think about that for a moment. This was a time of immense change in Egypt, with Persian rule giving way to the Greek Ptolemaic dynasty, founded by one of Alexander the Great's generals. This complex gives us a direct window into the economic backbone of the region during this turbulent era. It wasn't just a small-scale operation, it was a full-blown industrial zone. The archaeologists uncovered workshops for pottery, forges for metalworking, and facilities for producing alabaster and other stone crafts. It's like finding an ancient business park. Let's start with the pottery workshops. These weren't just for making simple bowls and jars. The team found a variety of kilns and shaping wheels, indicating a sophisticated level of production. They unearthed countless pottery shards, but also some beautifully preserved vessels. These include storage jars, likely used for grain, wine, or oil, and finer tableware that would have graced the homes of the wealthy. What's really exciting is the different styles of pottery they found. Some pieces are distinctly Egyptian, following traditions that were thousands of years old. Others show clear Greek influences, a testament to the cultural fusion happening during the Ptolemaic period. This tells us that the artisans here were not only skilled, but also adaptable, catering to a diverse market of both local Egyptians and the new Greek ruling class. Each pot, each shard, tells a story of trade, cultural exchange, and daily life. Next up, the metalworking forges. This is where things get really heated, literally. The archaeologists found evidence of furnaces and crucibles used for melting and casting metals like bronze and iron. They discovered tools, slag, which is the waste product of smelting, and even some unfinished metal objects. This suggests that the workshops were producing a wide range of goods, from agricultural tools like sickles and plowshares to weapons and decorative items. The ability to work metal was a sign of a technologically advanced society. And this discovery at Qam al-Ahmar shows that this region was a significant hub of production. It wasn't just a sleepy agricultural area. It was a place of innovation and industry, contributing to the wider economy of the Ptolemaic kingdom. The smoke from these forges would have been a constant sight, a symbol of the region's productivity. Perhaps one of the most elegant discoveries within the industrial zone was the evidence of alabaster workshops. Alabaster, a beautiful translucent stone, was highly prized in ancient Egypt and was often used for creating luxury items. The team found raw blocks of alabaster, specialized carving tools, and unfinished statues and vessels. This indicates that skilled sculptors and craftsmen were at work here, transforming rough stone into works of art. These items would have been incredibly valuable, likely destined for temples, palaces, or the tombs of the elite. The presence of these workshops highlights the wealth and artistic sophistication of the area. It shows that this industrial complex wasn't just about practical goods. It was also a center for creating objects of immense beauty and cultural significance. It connects the dots between the raw materials of the earth and the high art of a civilization. But the story doesn't end there. As the team continued their excavation, they made another, completely different kind of discovery. Lying above the ruins of the industrial complex was part of a cemetery, or necropolis, from the Roman period, which began in 30 BC after the death of Cleopatra. It's a fascinating layering of history. The bustling workshops fell silent, and centuries later, the same ground became a sacred space for the dead. This Ramong necropolis offers a completely different, yet equally important perspective on the people who lived here. The tombs are constructed from mud brick and have vaulted ceilings, a common architectural style for the period. Inside, the archaeologists found the remains of individuals laid to rest, but what truly captivated them were the burial practices. The burials revealed a stunning blend of Egyptian and Roman traditions. While the Romans had conquered Egypt, the ancient Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife were deeply ingrained and didn't just disappear. The archaeologists found that many of the deceased were buried with funerary masks made of cartonnage, a type of ancient papier mâché and decorated with gold leaf. This is a classic Egyptian practice meant to preserve the identity of the deceased for their journey into the afterlife. However, the artistic style of some of these masks and other grave goods showed distinct Roman influences. For example, the facial features might be more naturalistic, in the Roman portraiture style, rather than the idealized forms of traditional Egyptian art. This fusion is a powerful visual representation of the cultural melting pot that was Roman Egypt. It shows people holding on to their ancient traditions while adapting to the new world they lived in. One of the most poignant finds in the necropolis was a collection of terracotta statues depicting goddesses like Isis and Harpocrates, often shown as a child with his finger to his lips. These were placed in the tombs as protective figures, meant to guide and safeguard the deceased on their perilous journey through the underworld. The continued worship of these traditional Egyptian deities, even under Ramong rule, speaks volumes. It shows that for the ordinary people of the Nile Delta, their spiritual world remained profoundly Egyptian. They may have been Roman citizens, but their souls were still tied to the gods and goddesses who had watched over their ancestors for millennia. These small statues are not just artifacts. They are symbols of faith, hope, and the enduring power of belief in the face of immense political and cultural change. Furthermore, the team discovered a variety of grave goods buried with the individuals. These included lamps to light the way in the darkness of the tomb, and unguentaria, which are small ceramic or glass bottles that would have held perfumes or sacred oils. These items were essential components of the funerary ritual. They weren't just possessions. They were tools for the afterlife. The presence of these objects helps us understand the specific rituals and beliefs surrounding death and burial in this community. By studying what people chose to take with them into eternity, we get a deeply personal insight into what they valued and feared. It's a direct connection to their hopes for an eternal life, a life beyond the world of the living. So, what does this all mean when we put it together? The discovery at Kamal Amar is incredibly significant because it gives us two distinct yet connected snapshots of life and death in the same location, separated by a few hundred years. First, we have the Ptolemaic industrial complex, a testament to the region's economic vitality, craftsmanship, and its role in a globalized Hellenistic world. It paints a picture of a thriving, productive community. Then, layered on top, we have the Roman necropolis, a sacred landscape that reveals the complex spiritual lives of the people who came later. It shows a community navigating a new political reality while fiercely holding on to its ancestral beliefs, creating a unique hybrid culture. This site is a microcosm of Egyptian history itself, a story of industry, invasion, and adaptation, where the old and the new are constantly blending together. The work at Qam al-Ahmar is far from over. The archaeologists believe that what they've uncovered so far is just a fraction of what the site has to offer. Future excavations could reveal more workshops, more tombs, and perhaps even residential areas, which would give us an even more complete picture of this ancient community. Each new artifact, each newly excavated structure, adds another piece to the puzzle. It's a slow, meticulous process, but it's how we bring the past back to life. These discoveries aren't just for academics. They are part of our shared human heritage. They remind us that beneath the soil of our modern world lie countless stories of people who lived, worked, loved, and dreamed, just like we do today. This find in the Nile Delta is another chapter in that amazing, ongoing story. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. Discoveries like this are a powerful reminder of the rich and complex history that lies just beneath our feet. What part of this discovery did you find most fascinating? The bustling workshops or the blended burial traditions? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on the latest archaeological finds from around the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time, keep exploring. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into the sands of time, back to the ancient Nile Valley, to uncover a story etched not in stone, but on human skin. We're talking about the incredible world of Nubian tattoos, and some brand new discoveries that are completely changing what we thought we knew. For a long time, historians and archaeologists believed tattooing in ancient cultures was mostly reserved for adults, a rite of passage into maturity or a mark of social status. But a groundbreaking study from Sudan is turning that idea on its head. Archaeologists have been examining the remains of individuals from a site called Deir el-Bakit, a Christian community that thrived around 1,400 years ago. What they found is nothing short of astonishing. The real game changer here is the technology. For the first time ever on these specific remains, scientists used something called multispectral imaging. Think of it like a super-powered camera that can see things invisible to the naked eye. Normal light just shows us the surface, but this advanced imaging can detect hidden details beneath the skin, revealing ancient ink that has faded over centuries. And what did this high-tech analysis reveal? Tattoos, lots of them. But the most startling discovery was on whom they found these tattoos. They weren't just on men and women. They were on children, and not just teenagers, but toddlers and even infants. Imagine that. Tiny, intricate marks placed on the skin of the youngest members of the community. This is a massive revelation. It tells us that tattooing wasn't just a later-in-life decision. It was something deeply embedded in their culture from the very moment of birth. So the big question is, why? Why would they tattoo a baby? The researchers believe these marks were far more than just decoration. They were powerful symbols of faith, protection, and identity. Let's break that down. First, let's talk about faith. This period, around the 7th century, was a time of huge religious change in Nubia. Christianity was spreading rapidly, and these tattoos seemed to be a direct reflection of that. One of the most common motifs found was the Christogram, a monogram made from the first two letters of Christ's name in Greek, Chi and Rho. It looks like an X with a P through the middle. Finding this symbol tattooed on individuals, especially children, suggests it was a permanent declaration of their Christian faith, a way to carry their devotion with them always. It's like a baptism, but etched in ink. This mark would have identified them as part of the Christian community, a powerful statement in a world of shifting beliefs. Then there's the idea of protection. In a time without modern medicine, life was fragile, especially for infants and children. Ancient cultures all over the world used amulets and charms to ward off evil spirits, sickness, and bad luck. The researchers suggest these tattoos served a similar purpose. They were seen as a form of permanent magical protection. By marking a child with a sacred symbol like the Christogram, parents might have believed they were placing them under divine protection, safeguarding them from the many dangers of the ancient world. It was a parent's love and hope made visible, a permanent prayer for their child's well-being. And finally, identity. These tattoos were a way of belonging. Just like a family name or a national flag today, these marks would have instantly signaled who you were and where you came from. They connected individuals to their family, their community, and their shared beliefs. For a toddler, a tattoo given so early would have meant that their identity as a member of this specific Nubian Christian group was established from their first years of life. It was a fundamental part of who they were, inseparable from their very being. The placement of these tattoos is also incredibly significant. Many were found on the face, particularly the forehead. In many cultures, the head is considered the most sacred part of the body, the seat of the soul or consciousness. Placing a protective and religious symbol in such a prominent and important location amplifies its power. It's a bold, public declaration that couldn't be hidden. What's also fascinating is how this discovery connects the dots of a much larger story. We've known about tattooing practices in ancient Egypt for a while, but this Nubian evidence is unique. It shows how these traditions evolved and adapted as new religions like Christianity took hold. The practice of body marking wasn't abandoned, it was transformed. The old ways were given new meaning, blending ancient traditions with new faith. This find provides a rare and intimate glimpse into the daily lives, personal beliefs, and deepest anxieties of these ancient people. It's not about kings and pharaohs. It's about ordinary families and how they navigated their world. This research really highlights how much is still out there, waiting to be discovered. Without the use of multispectral imaging, these tiny, faded tattoos on the skin of toddlers might have been lost to history forever. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest stories are hidden in the smallest details. We're getting a window into the personal, emotional world of people who lived over 1,000 years ago, seeing how they expressed their love, their faith, and their hopes for their children. So, what started as a look at ancient remains has become a deeply human story. A story of parents in the Nile Valley, 1,400 years ago, choosing to mark their children with symbols of faith and protection, creating a permanent bond of identity that they would carry for the rest of their lives. It's a beautiful and poignant insight into the past. What do you think about this discovery? Does it change how you think about ancient cultures or the practice of tattooing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's truly amazing what science can help us uncover about our shared human history. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the crossroads of history and science. We'll see you in the next one. Can you imagine walking through a forest and feeling the ground tremble? Not from an earthquake, but from the footsteps of a giant? It sounds like something out of a fantasy movie, but until just 600 years ago, this was a reality in the forests of New Zealand. These giants weren't mammoths or dinosaurs, but birds. The incredible moa, the largest birds to ever walk the earth. For millions of years, New Zealand was a world apart, a sanctuary of splendid isolation. With no land mammals to compete with, life evolved in unique and wonderful ways. It was here that the moa became the kings of the forest floor. They took on the ecological roles that deer, cattle, and even giraffes fill in other parts of the world. There wasn't just one type of moa. There were 9 distinct species, each adapted to its own niche. They ranged from the size of a turkey to the truly colossal South Island giant moa. This magnificent bird, known to science as Dinornis robustus, was a sight to behold. Imagine a bird standing an astonishing 12 feet tall, towering over any human and weighing over 500 pounds. That's twice the height of an average person and heavier than a full-grown lion. They were completely flightless, their wings reduced to tiny, useless stubs hidden beneath their shaggy feathers. These birds were the architects of their environment, shaping the forests and shrublands with their browsing and grazing. They were true ecological engineers. Their reign, which had lasted for eons, came to a sudden and tragic end. Around the year 1300 AD, a new presence arrived on the shores of New Zealand, the Polynesian ancestors of the Mbori people. For the moa, which had never faced a significant predator, this was a catastrophic development. The human settlers found a land rich with resources, and the giant, slow-moving birds were an easy and abundant source of food. The hunting was relentless. The scale of the hunt was so immense that within a mere 100 to 200 years, all 9 species of moa were gone. Forever. This wasn't a slow decline. It was a rapid, complete annihilation. The extinction of the moa is one of the most dramatic and well-documented examples of human impact on an ecosystem in prehistory. The speed and finality of their disappearance are truly staggering. Archaeologists have found vast middens, ancient waste sites filled with countless moa bones, a stark testament to the feasts that led to their demise. Alongside the moa, their primary predator, the massive Haast's eagle, also went extinct, its main food source having vanished. The story of the moa is a powerful one. It's a tale of breathtaking natural wonder, of a unique evolutionary path that produced gentle, feathered giants. But it's also a sobering story of loss, a stark reminder of the fragility of even the most magnificent creatures when faced with new pressures. Their absence has left a permanent void in New Zealand's ecology. The forests they once roamed are quieter now. The plants they once fed on have evolved defenses against a browser that no longer exists. The moa were the unique titans of an island paradise, and their story serves as a timeless lesson. It reminds us of the profound and often irreversible impact our species can have on the natural world. They were real-life giants, and their memory echoes through the silent forest they once called home. What an incredible story, right? It really makes you think about the world that existed just a few centuries ago. If you found this journey back in time as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about our planet's amazing and sometimes lost wonders. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Forget everything you think you know about the age of dinosaurs. The land-based titans get all the glory, but the true rulers of the late Cretaceous didn't walk on land, they swam. They hunted. They dominated a vast, shallow ocean that once split the entire continent of North America in two, the Western Interior Seaway. And at the very top of its food chain, reigning as the undisputed apex predator, was a creature of almost unbelievable power, the Mosasaurus. Now, let's get one thing straight right away. Mosasaurus was not a dinosaur. It wasn't even closely related. It belonged to a group called Lepidosaurs, which makes its closest living relatives things like monitor lizards and snakes. Imagine a Komodo dragon, but supercharged, scaled up to the size of a school bus, and perfectly engineered for a life in the sea. The largest species we know of, the mighty Mosasaurus hoffmanni, could stretch over 50 feet long. That's longer than a T-Rex and twice the size of a great white shark. For 25 million years, this was the king. So how did a lizard become the master of the ocean? Evolution is a powerful force, and the Mosasaurus is one of its most incredible masterpieces. Its body was a streamlined torpedo of muscle. Its limbs, which once walked on land, had transformed over millions of years into four powerful, paddle-like flippers. These weren't for propulsion, though. They were for steering, for maneuvering with frightening agility through the water. The real engine was its tail. For a long time, scientists thought it had a long, snake-like tail. But recent fossil discoveries, including skin impressions, have revealed something spectacular. The Mosasaurus likely had a shark-like tail fluke, a powerful, crescent-shaped fin at the end. This meant it could generate incredible bursts of speed, ambushing prey from below like a reptilian missile. But the real business end of a Mosasaurus was its head. The skull was a marvel of predatory engineering. It was incredibly robust but also flexible, a feature known as craniokinesis. This allowed its jaws to expand and swing open to an enormous gape, much wider than you'd expect. It could literally unhinge its jaw, a trait shared with its modern snake relatives. And what were those jaws lined with? Teeth, rows upon rows of huge, conical, slightly backward curving teeth. They weren't designed for slicing or chewing. They were for one thing and one thing only: seizing. Once a Mosasaurus bit down on something, a giant fish, a sea turtle, a massive ammonite with its hard shell, or even another, smaller marine reptile, there was no escape. The backward curve of the teeth ensured that the more the prey struggled, the deeper it was pulled into the gullet. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, it had a secret weapon. A second set of teeth on its palate, the roof of its mouth. These are called pterygoid teeth. So, once the initial bite secured the prey, these inner teeth would ratchet the victim down its throat, inch by inch, ensuring even the largest meals could be swallowed whole. This creature didn't nibble, it engulfed. It was a hydraulic press with a one-way ticket to its stomach. Let's paint a picture of its world. The Western Interior Seaway was a warm, teeming ecosystem full of life. Giant 10-foot-long fish like Xiphactinus swam in schools. Huge sea turtles with shells the size of a small car paddled lazily. Coiled ammonites, some as wide as a truck tire, drifted through the water column. And above them all, patrolling the sunlit upper layers of the ocean, was the Mosasaurus. It was an ambush predator. It would likely lurk in the deeper, darker waters, its dark skin providing camouflage, looking up at the silhouettes of potential meals against the bright surface. Then, with a few powerful thrusts of its tail, it would launch itself upward. Imagine the sheer force. A 15-ton reptile accelerating toward you from the gloom. For a giant turtle like Archelon, its massive shell would offer little protection. Fossil evidence shows us Mosasaurus bite marks that have punched clean through these thick, bony shells. They weren't just hunting, they were shattering their prey. Even other large predators weren't safe. Smaller mosasaurs, long-necked plesiosaurs, they were all on the menu. We have fossilized stomach contents that prove it. The Mosasaurus was the ultimate cannibal, the king that ate the princes. They were air breathers, of course, just like whales today. They would have had to surface regularly to fill their massive lungs. Imagine being a pterosaur, like a pteranodon, gliding over the sea, dipping down to snatch a fish from the surface. One moment of inattention, and suddenly the water erupts. A head the size of a refrigerator bursts out, jaws agape, and snatches you right out of the sky. Yes, paleontologists believe this absolutely happened. The Mosasaurus's reign was total, extending from the seafloor to the very surface of the water and even slightly above it. For millions of years, this dynasty of sea lizards ruled the planet's oceans. They diversified into dozens of species, each adapted to a specific niche. Some were smaller, faster fish eaters. Others developed blunt, crushing teeth for cracking open shellfish. But the big ones, like Hoffmanni, were the generalist hyperpredators. They were the final, magnificent word in the long evolutionary story of marine reptiles, a story that began hundreds of millions of years earlier. They were bigger, faster, and more powerful than almost anything that had come before. And then it all ended. 66 million years ago, an asteroid 6 miles wide struck the Earth. The impact triggered a global cataclysm. The world was plunged into darkness, ecosystems collapsed, and the food chains crumbled. On land, the dinosaurs perished. And in the sea, the great Mosasaurus, the king with no rivals, starved. Its world vanished from beneath its flippers. The mighty ruler of the Cretaceous seas disappeared forever, leaving only its colossal bones as a testament to its reign. So next time you think of the Cretaceous period, remember to look beyond the land. Because for millions of years, the true king of the planet War Scales had flippers and ruled a lost American ocean. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the ancient seas, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into prehistoric life. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a story that feels straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. It's a tale of a seemingly worthless piece of junk that turned out to be a historical bombshell, rewriting what we thought we knew about the Roman Empire in Spain. Our story starts in the beautiful city of Cartagena in southeastern Spain. This was once the bustling Roman city of Carthago Nova, a vital hub of trade and administration. Archaeologists at the Molinete Archaeological Park were excavating the remains of a building that had been destroyed by a massive fire. This fire, which likely happened near the end of the 3rd century CE, left behind a layer of destruction. And within that layer they found something, a warped, corroded, and frankly ugly-looking mass of metal. It was so damaged that it was hard to tell what it even was. It looked like little more than ancient scrap, a casualty of the fire, destined to be catalogued and forgotten. But history, as we know, often hides its greatest secrets in the most unlikely places. The team decided this strange object was worth a closer look. They sent it off to the lab for what would become a painstaking process of restoration. Imagine this, a jigsaw puzzle with over 200 fragile, burnt, and corroded pieces. Piece by tiny piece, conservators began the delicate task of cleaning and reassembling the object. As they worked, a shape began to emerge. It wasn't just a lump of metal. It was a vessel, specifically a Roman Satella Asterisca type of bucket or pail, often used for carrying liquids like water or wine. But this was no ordinary bucket. As the conservators cleaned the surface, something incredible appeared, an inscription. Engraved into the metal was a message from the past. This is the moment every archaeologist dreams of. Suddenly, this wasn't just an object. It was a voice speaking to us across nearly 2,000 years. And what it had to say was truly groundbreaking. The inscription was written in Latin, and the first part was a dedication. It read, Postumius Nepos Fuscus. This was a name, Marcus Postumius Nepos Fuscus. And right after his name was his title, Legatus pro praetori. This translates to praetorian legate, which was a high-ranking official, essentially the governor of the province. But here's the kicker, historians had never heard of this guy. No other record, no other inscription. No mention in any ancient text had ever named a governor called Marcus Postumius Nepos Fuscus serving in this province. This single, fire-damaged bucket had just introduced us to a previously unknown ruler of Roman Spain. It was like finding a new chapter in a history book we thought was complete. But the surprises didn't stop there. The inscription continued, and the next part was even more mysterious. It mentioned something called *sortes*. The full line referred to the lots of the emperor's genius, or *sortes genii Augusti*. What on earth does that mean? Well, *sortes* were a form of divination or fortune-telling. The Romans would use objects like specially marked sticks, dice, or tablets to receive answers from the gods or to determine fate. It was a bit like drawing straws, but with divine implications. The inscription on our Satella seems to be referring to a specific set of lots, a divinatory kit dedicated to the protective spirit, or *genius* of the emperor. This was a stunning revelation. While we knew the Romans practiced this kind of ritual, finding a direct, official link to it on an object dedicated by a governor was unheard of in this region. This wasn't some back-alley fortune-teller. This was an officially sanctioned ritual at the highest levels of provincial government. So, what was this Satella actually used for? The researchers believe it was the very container used to hold the lots themselves. Imagine Governor Fuscus, or a priest on his behalf, reaching into this ornate bucket during an important ceremony, pulling out a lot, and revealing the will of the gods on some critical matter of state. This object wasn't just for carrying wine. It was a key piece of ritual equipment, a direct link between the mortal world and the divine. This discovery changes our understanding of Roman life in Carthago Nova in a few major ways. First, it gives us a new governor, filling a gap in our knowledge of the provincial administration. It's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know, and that new evidence can pop up at any time. Second, it gives us a rare, tangible glimpse into the religious and ritual practices of the Roman elite. It shows that divination wasn't just a private superstition. It was integrated into the formal structures of power. The governor wasn't just a politician and a general. He was also a key religious figure responsible for maintaining the divine favor, or *pax deorum*, the peace with the gods. The fact that this Satella was found in a burned-down building adds another layer of drama. Was this building a temple? A public administrative building? Was the fire an accident or the result of an attack? The destruction of the site in the late 3rd century coincides with a period of crisis and instability across the Roman Empire. This Satella might be a silent witness to that turbulent history. Perhaps the building was destroyed during a raid, and this valuable ritual object was abandoned in the chaos. This whole story is a perfect example of why archaeology is so fascinating. It starts with a lump of corroded metal, something most people would walk right past. But with careful work and expert analysis, it becomes a key that unlocks incredible stories about real people, their beliefs, and the world they lived in. It connects us to Governor Marcus Postumius Nepos Fuscus, A man lost to history until his name was read again from the side of his ritual bucket. It reminds us that the past is never truly gone. It's just waiting to be discovered, often in the most unexpected forms. What other secrets are still buried beneath the streets of Cartagena, waiting for their moment to come to light? Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey back to Roman Spain. If you found this as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more historical deep dives, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Let me know in the comments what you think about this amazing discovery. See you in the next video. Imagine stepping back in time, not just to any period, but to the height of the Roman Empire, into a world of unimaginable luxury and breathtaking beauty. That's exactly what archaeologists are doing right now, and they've just uncovered something truly spectacular. We're talking about the Villa di Poppaea, a grand estate frozen in time by the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. This villa, perched near modern-day Torre Annunziata, is believed to have belonged to none other than Poppaea Sabina, the second wife of the infamous Emperor Nero. For centuries, this villa has been a treasure trove for historians and art lovers. But a recent excavation has unveiled a series of frescoes so stunning, so vibrant, that they rewriting what we thought we knew about Roman art and the opulent lifestyle of its elite. These aren't just decorative paintings. They're windows into the soul of ancient Rome, showcasing a level of detail and sophistication that rivals even the most celebrated artworks from Pompeii and Herculaneum. Join me today as we peel back the layers of volcanic ash and explore these newly discovered masterpieces, uncovering the stories they tell about power, wealth, and the exquisite taste of an empress. The Villa di Poppaea is no ordinary Roman house. It's a sprawling maritime palace, an architectural marvel that once boasted panoramic views of the Bay of Naples. When you walk through its ruins today, even buried as it is, you can feel the grandeur. We're talking about dozens of rooms, private gardens, and a massive swimming pool. This wasn't just a home. It was a statement. Built around the middle of the 1st century, BCE, its sheer scale and the quality of its decorations have long pointed to imperial ownership. The connection to Poppaea Sabina, while not definitively proven with a signed document, is overwhelmingly supported by historical evidence. Poppaea was known for her beauty, her ambition, and her immense wealth. A villa of this magnitude was exactly the kind of status symbol a woman in her position would possess. The eruption of Vesuvius in 79 CE was a tragedy of epic proportions, but it also created an unparalleled time capsule. The thick layers of ash and pumice that rained down on the Bay of Naples preserved buildings, objects, and even art in a state that would have been impossible otherwise. The Villa di Poppaea was one of these buried treasures. While parts of it were explored in the 18th and 19th centuries, much of it remained untouched, a sleeping giant waiting for modern archaeology to awaken it. The current excavations, led by a team of international experts, have focused on a previously unexplored wing of the villa. And what they've found there is nothing short of breathtaking. The new frescoes were discovered in a series of rooms that might have served as private entertainment spaces or intimate living quarters. Unlike the more public areas of the villa, which feature grand, architectural-style paintings, these new works are something different. They are more delicate, more personal, and bursting with life. Let's dive into what makes these frescoes so special. We're seeing incredibly detailed still-life paintings known as zinnia in the ancient world. These paintings depict bowls of fruit so realistic you feel you could reach out and grab a fig or a pomegranate. The artists used light and shadow with such skill that the fruits appear three-dimensional, glistening as if freshly picked. You can see the delicate fuzz on a peach, the subtle blush on an apple. This was the ancient Roman equivalent of a humble brag, a way of showing off the host's generosity and the exotic produce they could afford. But it's not just fruit. The frescoes also feature intricate floral garlands, delicate birds perched on branches, and theatrical masks. One particularly stunning panel depicts a wicker basket overflowing with grapes, figs, and pomegranates. The level of detail is microscopic. The artist even painted the subtle imperfections on the fruit, the way the light reflects off the taut skin of a grape. This isn't just decoration. It's a celebration of nature's bounty and the good life. One of the most exciting discoveries is a large fresco that seems to depict a garden scene, creating what archaeologists call paradise painting. This style, known as the Third Pompeian style, was popular in the early 1st century CE. It aimed to dissolve the walls of a room and transport the viewer into an idealized landscape. Imagine dining in a room where the walls are painted to look like a lush, sun-drenched garden filled with exotic birds and blooming flowers. It would have been a completely immersive experience, a way to bring the beauty of the outdoors inside, regardless of the season. These paintings are masterpieces of illusion. The artists used sophisticated techniques of perspective and foreshortening to create a sense of depth. Birds seem to fly right out of the wall, and fountains appear to gurgle with real water. The colors are what's truly astonishing. After nearly 2,000 years buried underground, they are still incredibly vibrant. We see rich Pompeian reds, deep ochres, brilliant yellows, and rare, expensive blues and greens. The pigments themselves tell a story of wealth and extensive trade networks, as many of these colors were derived from minerals imported from distant parts of the empire, like Egypt and Afghanistan. So who were the artists behind these incredible works? They were likely highly skilled artisans, part of a workshop that specialized in luxury decorations. While they remain anonymous, their skill is undeniable. They were masters of their craft, able to work quickly and confidently in the tricky medium of true fresco, where paint is applied to wet plaster. This technique required them to complete a section before the plaster dried, locking the pigments into the wall for eternity. The lack of hesitation in their brushstrokes, visible even today, speaks to their immense talent and experience. These discoveries are significant for several reasons. First, they expand our understanding of Roman painting. While we have many examples from Pompeii, the frescoes from Oplontis offer a unique glimpse into the very highest echelons of society. The quality here is arguably a step above what we see in even the wealthiest houses of Pompeii. This was imperial-level art, commissioned by someone with unlimited resources and the most refined taste. Second, they tell us more about Poppaea Sabina herself. If this was indeed her villa, these artworks reflect her personal world. They suggest a woman who appreciated not just grandeur but also subtle beauty, nature, and the arts. It paints a more nuanced picture of her than the often one-dimensional, villainous portrayal we get from ancient historians like Tacitus, who had their own political agendas. Here, in the art she chose to surround herself with, we might be seeing a more intimate side of the empress. The conservation process for these frescoes is incredibly delicate. As soon as they are exposed to the air after millennia, they are vulnerable to deterioration. Teams of conservators work alongside the archaeologists, painstakingly cleaning the surfaces, consolidating the fragile plaster, and using modern techniques to protect the vibrant colors from fading. It's a race against time to preserve these irreplaceable fragments of the past. Each new discovery at the Villa di Poppaea adds another piece to the puzzle of Roman life. These frescoes are more than just pretty pictures. They are cultural documents. They show us what the Roman elite valued, what they found beautiful, and how they used art to construct their identity and project their power. They are a tangible link to a world that is both distant and surprisingly familiar in its appreciation for beauty, luxury, and the comforts of home. The work at Oplontis is far from over. Large parts of the villa still remain buried, holding who knows what secrets beneath the volcanic soil. Each excavation season brings the potential for new, game-changing discoveries. Will we find more rooms, more artworks? Perhaps even an inscription that definitively links Poppaea to the villa once and for all? That's the thrill of archaeology. These newly unearthed frescoes are a powerful reminder that history is not a closed book. It's a living, breathing field of discovery, where a fragment of painted plaster can completely change our perspective. They allow us to connect with the people of the past on a human level, to stand in their rooms and see the world, for a moment, through their eyes. The beauty they created has miraculously survived one of history's most violent natural disasters, waiting patiently for us to find it and share its story. It's a story of opulence, artistry, and the enduring power of beauty to transcend time. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to Imperial Rome. If you found this as fascinating as I did, Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the incredible discoveries that are bringing our ancient past back to life. Let me know in the comments what you think is the most amazing part of these new frescoes. See you next time. What if I told you that the story of our earliest ancestors leaving Africa, a story we've been told for decades, might be completely wrong? For the longest time, the scientific consensus was pretty straightforward. About 1.8 million years ago, a single pioneering species called Homo erectus was the first of our kind to venture out of the African continent. They were the trailblazers, the sole adventurers who spread humanity across the globe. This was the clean, simple narrative taught in textbooks and shown in documentaries. But what if the real story was a lot more crowded and a lot more interesting? Get ready to have your mind blown, because a groundbreaking new study is shaking the very foundations of human evolution. The evidence comes from a remarkable archaeological site called the Menisi, nestled in the country of Georgia. For years, Menisi has been a treasure trove for paleontologists, yielding some of the oldest hominin fossils ever found outside of Africa. These fossils, all dating back to that crucial 1.8 million-year-old period, were initially thought to belong to a regional variant of Homo erectus. It made sense. They fit the timeline and the prevailing theory, but science is all about questioning, re-examining, and looking closer. A team of researchers decided to do just that. They took a fresh, detailed look at the Menisi fossils, specifically focusing on a part of the skeleton that tells a fascinating story, the shoulder. Their findings, recently published in the scientific journal PLOS ONE, are turning everything we thought we knew on its head. The study suggests that the group of early humans at Menisi wasn't a uniform population of Homo erectus at all. Instead, it seems they were a surprisingly diverse bunch. So what exactly did they find in these ancient shoulder bones? The analysis revealed a mix of traits. Some of the shoulder characteristics were very modern, closely resembling those of Homo sapiens. That's us. These features suggest an ability for efficient, long-distance running and tool use, hallmarks of a species adapted to life on the ground. This fits perfectly with the classic image of Homo erectus, the skilled hunter and traveler. But here's where it gets wild. Other shoulder bones from the very same site showed much more primitive, ape-like features. These primitive traits are more suited for climbing and spending time in trees. To have both types of shoulder anatomy present in the same place at the same time is a massive puzzle. It's like finding a brand new sports car parked next to a horse-drawn carriage and being told they both came from the same factory on the same day. It just doesn't add up under the old model. This discovery has led to a radical new hypothesis. The first great migration out of Africa was in a solo act by Homo erectus. It might have been a group event, an exodus involving multiple species of early humans. Imagine a world 1.8 million years ago, not with one type of human ancestor exploring new lands, but with a diverse cast of characters. Some were better adapted for life on the open plains, while others still retained the ability to navigate the forests. They might have lived side by side, competed for resources, or even interacted in ways we can only begin to imagine. This completely changes the picture of our evolutionary journey. Instead of a single, linear path where one species neatly replaces another, the reality was likely a much more complex and dynamic mosaic of different hominins coexisting and spreading across the landscape. The Menisi site, therefore, might not just be a simple outpost of Homo erectus. It could be a snapshot of a multi-species migration event. Think about what this means. It forces us to reconsider the very definition of early Homo. Was Homo erectus as uniform as we thought? Or was the name Homo erectus just a convenient label we slapped onto a whole range of different-looking hominins? Some scientists are now suggesting that the variation we see at Menisi is so great that it could impossibly be contained within a single species. The individuals with the primitive, upward-oriented shoulders might belong to an entirely different, as yet unnamed species, or perhaps they were a late-surviving population of an earlier hominin, like Australopithecus, that managed to journey all the way to Georgia. This isn't the first time Menisi has stirred up controversy. A few years ago, the discovery of a skull known as Skull 5 at the site also caused a major debate. Skull 5 had a small brain case but a large projecting face, a combination of features that challenged the clear-cut definitions of early human species. At the time, it led some researchers to propose that maybe all these different species, Homo habilis, Homo rudolfensis, Homo erectus, were actually just variations within a single evolving lineage. The new shoulder study adds another powerful layer to this argument. It provides postcranial evidence. That is, evidence from the body, not just the skull, that supports the idea of extreme diversity. The shoulder is a critical part of the skeleton for understanding how an animal moves and interacts with its environment. A shoulder built for climbing is fundamentally different from one built for throwing and running. Finding both in one place strongly implies that there were different lifestyles, and therefore potentially different species living together. So, what could have prompted this multi-species exodus from Africa? The environment of that period was undergoing significant changes. The climate was shifting, creating new grasslands and opening up corridors for migration. This likely pushed various hominin groups to explore new territories in search of food and resources. It wasn't necessarily a single, heroic journey, but perhaps a more gradual expansion with different groups moving out in waves, each with their own unique set of adaptations and skills. This new perspective is incredibly exciting because it paints a much richer and more realistic picture of our past. Evolution isn't a neat and tidy ladder, it's a messy, branching bush. And it seems the branch that led to us was intertwined with many others, especially during this critical period of global expansion. The Dmanisi fossils are like a time capsule, giving us a glimpse into this complex world. They show us that 1.8 million years ago, the human family was diverse, experimental, and on the move. Of course, this is still a developing story. This new study is a major piece of the puzzle, but more research is needed. Scientists will continue to analyze the Dmanisi fossils and search for new sites that can shed more light on this period. They'll be looking for more skeletons, more tools, and more environmental data to reconstruct the lives of these early pioneers. What we can say for sure is that the simple story of Homo erectus, the lone wanderer, is no longer the only story in town. The exit from Africa was likely a far more complex affair. A pivotal moment in our history when the world was populated not by one but by multiple kinds of early humans. It makes you wonder what other surprises are still buried beneath the earth, waiting to rewrite the story of us. It's a powerful reminder that our understanding of the past is always evolving, just like we did. Thanks so much for watching. If you're fascinated by the incredible story of human evolution, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the latest scientific discoveries. Let us know in the comments what you think about this incredible new find. See you next time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most famous figures in human evolution. A name you've probably heard 1,000 times, Lucy, for decades. This 3.2 million-year-old fossil has been the star of our origin story. She was the missing link, the perfect ancestor connecting our ape-like past to our human present. But what if I told you that story might be changing? That new discoveries are shaking up everything we thought we knew about where we come from? Stick around, because we're about to explore the incredible new evidence that suggests Lucy might not be our direct ancestor after all. Let's rewind a bit. In 1974, paleoanthropologist Donald Johanson made a groundbreaking discovery in the dusty landscapes of Hadar, Ethiopia. He found hundreds of bone fragments, which, when pieced together, formed about 40% of a single skeleton. This wasn't just any fossil. It was a female hominin who walked upright. The team famously celebrated their find by listening to the Beatles' song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and just like that, Lucy was born. She belonged to the species Australopithecus afarensis, and her combination of features was astonishing. She had long arms and curved fingers, great for climbing trees, but her pelvis and leg bones clearly showed she was bipedal, walking on two legs just like us. This mix of ape and human traits made her the ideal candidate for a direct human ancestor. Textbooks were written, museum exhibits were built, and for nearly 50 years, Lucy was hailed as our great-great-great. Well, you get the idea? Grandmother, she was the root of our family tree, the single trunk from which the genus Homo, our own genus, sprouted. It was a simple, elegant, and linear story. But science, as we know, is never that simple. The first cracks in this linear model started to appear not long after Lucy's discovery. Scientists began to wonder, could there have been other hominin species living at the same time as Lucy's kind? The idea of a single line of descent is tidy, but evolution is often a messy, branching bush, not a straight ladder. The problem was, for a long time, there was no solid evidence. Afarensis was the only hominin species known from the period between 3 and 4 million years ago. Without other fossils to compare, the Lucy as our direct ancestor hypothesis remained the strongest contender. But the winds of change were blowing, and they were blowing across the Ethiopian desert. The game changer came from a place called Woranso Mill, another fossil-rich site in Ethiopia, not too far from where Lucy was found. An international team led by Dr. Johannes Haile Selassie has been working there for years, unearthing a treasure trove of new fossils. In 2015, they announced a stunning discovery. A new species of hominin that lived at the exact same time and in the same general area as Lucy. They named it Australopithecus derrimata. The fossils, mostly jawbones and teeth, were distinct from Afarensis. They showed a hominin with smaller teeth and a more robust jaw, suggesting a different diet and a different way of life. Suddenly, the picture of our past wasn't so clear anymore. Lucy wasn't alone. There were at least 2 different hominin species roaming the plains of ancient Ethiopia, coexisting. This discovery was a bombshell. It meant that our family tree from this period had at least 2 branches. The question now was, which branch led to us? But the team at Woranso Mill wasn't done yet. Their continued work has unearthed even more evidence of this ancient diversity. One of the most significant recent finds is a partial cranium, a piece of a skull. Catalogued as MRD, this fossil, belonging to another early hominin species called Australopithecus anamensis, was dated to 3.8 million years ago. Now, A. anamensis was previously thought to be the direct ancestor of Lucy's species, A. afarensis. The old idea was that one species gradually evolved into the next over time. But the MRD cranium threw a wrench in that too. Its age showed that A. anamensis was still around when A. afarensis had already appeared. This means the 2 species overlapped for at least 100,000 years. So, instead of a simple linear progression from anamensis to afarensis, we now have evidence that the parent species lived alongside the daughter species. This suggests that the split between the 2 was a branching event, not a linear transformation. One population of anamensis likely became isolated and evolved into afarensis, while other anamensis populations continued to thrive elsewhere. So let's piece this all together. We now have at least 3 different hominin species living in East Africa between 3 and 4 million years ago: Australopithecus anamensis, Australopithecus afarensis, Lucy's species, and Australopithecus derrimata. And that's not even counting another contender, Kenyanthropus platyops, found in Kenya from the same time period. Our family tree from this era looks less like a single trunk and more like a tangled, bushy shrub. It's a beautiful, complex mess of evolutionary experiments with different hominin species exploring different ways of surviving. Some were better climbers, others had powerful jaws for chewing tough foods, and all were trying to make a living in a changing environment. This brings us back to the big question. If Lucy wasn't our direct ancestor, then who was? With so many candidates on the table, it's hard to say for sure. The truth is, we don't know. Derrimata, with its more robust jaw and smaller teeth, shows some features that are more similar to later hominins like Paranthropus and even early Homo. Could this lesser-known cousin of Lucy's be a more likely ancestor for us? Or is it possible that our direct ancestor from this time period is still out there waiting to be discovered? The fossil record is notoriously incomplete. What we find is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the life that once existed. Each new fossil adds a pixel to the picture, but the full image is still far from complete. What this new evidence really does is force us to rethink the very nature of human evolution. The classic March of Progress illustration, showing a linear progression from ape to human, is deeply misleading. Evolution doesn't work towards a predetermined goal. It's a process of adaptation and diversification. There wasn't one single path to becoming human. Instead, there were multiple paths, multiple experiments in being a bipedal ape, and only one of those lineages, by chance and circumstance, eventually led to us, Homo sapiens. The others, including Lucy's species and Aedarumata, eventually went extinct, their branches pruned from the tree of life. So, does this demote Lucy? Does it make her less important? Absolutely not. Lucy remains one of the most important scientific discoveries of all time. Her skeleton provided the first undeniable proof of ancient upright walking in a small-brained hominin. She opened the world's eyes to the deep history of our origins and inspired generations of scientists. Her importance hasn't diminished. Her role in the story has just become more nuanced. She's no longer the sole protagonist of our origin story. Instead, she's a key character in a much grander, more complex epic with a whole cast of fascinating players. She represents a hugely successful and long-lived species that was a critical part of the evolutionary landscape from which our own genus eventually emerged. Whether she was our direct grandmother or a close cousin, her story is inextricably linked with our own. The ongoing research in Ethiopia is a powerful reminder that science is a dynamic process of discovery, not a static book of facts. What we know today is based on the evidence we have, and as we find new evidence, our understanding evolves. The story of human origins is constantly being rewritten, revised, and refined, and that's what makes it so exciting. The mystery isn't solved, it's deepening. The search for our ancestors continues, driven by the curiosity and dedication of scientists working in challenging conditions to uncover the secrets buried in the earth. Each new fossil, no matter how small, has the potential to rewrite our history. The next major discovery could be unearthed tomorrow, and it could change everything once again. So, the next time you see a picture of Lucy, don't think of her as just a single link in a chain. Think of her as part of a vibrant, diverse world of ancient hominins, all navigating their environment in unique ways. She is a testament to a pivotal moment in evolution when our ancestors took their first upright steps, paving the way for the incredible journey that was to come. Her story is a reminder that our past is far richer and more complex than we ever imagined. What do you think about these new discoveries? Does it change how you see human evolution? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into our deep past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden just beneath the surface of the world we see every day? In the stunning landscapes of Western Norway, a team of archaeologists has just stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, something that rewrites a part of prehistoric history. Imagine this, a vast, previously unknown area filled with Stone Age rock paintings, nestled near the municipality of Tingvoll. This isn't just a few new carvings. It's like finding a lost chapter in the story of ancient human art. For years, Tingvoll has been famous among historians and archaeologists. It's a known hotspot for rock art, with about 25 documented panels scattered across two main locations. Think of it as an ancient art gallery, carved into the very bones of the earth. These existing sites have told us so much about the people who lived here thousands of years ago, their beliefs, their daily lives, and the animals they shared their world with. But this new discovery? It's on a completely different level. It's a separate, distinct rock art area that nobody knew existed until now. It's like discovering a secret wing of the gallery filled with masterpieces we've never seen before. This incredible find was made by archaeologists from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology's University Museum. They were using a special technique called LiDAR, which is a bit like a high-tech treasure map. LiDAR uses lasers to scan the ground and create a super detailed 3D model of the terrain. It can see through trees and vegetation, revealing the true shape of the land underneath. It was while studying these digital maps that the team noticed something peculiar. There were formations in the landscape that just looked right. They had the classic characteristics of places where Stone Age people would have chosen to carve their art. These were smooth rock faces, perfectly angled, sitting right near the ancient shoreline. Back in the Stone Age, the sea level was much higher than it is today. People lived along the coast and they often created their art on rocks that were right by the water. So the archaeologists knew exactly what to look for. Armed with their digital maps, they headed out into the field, their hearts pounding with anticipation. What they found exceeded all their expectations. They located not just one, but several new panels of rock art spread across a brand new area. The first figures they identified were two beautifully carved moose, standing majestically on a smooth rock face. Moose were a common subject for Stone Age artists, symbolizing strength, sustenance, and perhaps even spiritual power. As they explored further, the discoveries just kept coming. They found more figures, including other animals and geometric patterns, each one a message sent across millennia. One of the most exciting aspects of this discovery is that it shows Tingvoll is much more than just a couple of isolated sites. It's a huge, interconnected landscape of prehistoric art. It suggests that this whole region was a significant cultural and religious center for the people who lived here thousands of years ago. Imagine ancient communities gathering at these sites, performing rituals, telling stories, and carving their world into the rock for future generations to see. The archaeologists believe these carvings date back to the Stone Age, which in this part of Norway means they could be anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 years old. To put that into perspective, these paintings were created long before the pyramids of Egypt were built. They offer a direct connection to the minds of our distant ancestors. Each line, each figure, is a whisper from the past. The art style is typical of what we see in other coastal rock art from this period. The animals are depicted in a naturalistic way, often shown in profile, capturing their essential form and spirit. The team is now using advanced digital documentation techniques to record every detail of these new finds. They're creating high-resolution 3D models of the carvings, which will allow researchers from all over the world to study them without ever having to travel to the site. This is crucial because rock art is incredibly fragile. It's exposed to the wind, the rain, and the changing seasons. By creating digital replicas, we can preserve this priceless heritage for eternity, even as the original rocks slowly weather away. This discovery also opens up a ton of new questions. Why was this specific area so important to Stone Age people? Were there settlements nearby? What kind of rituals took place at these sites? The newly found art panels provide fresh clues, but they also deepen the mystery. The archaeologists will now be looking for other signs of human activity in the area, like ancient settlements, tools, or burial sites, to piece together a more complete picture of life in Stone Age Tingvoll. It's a powerful reminder that history is not a closed book. There are still so many secrets waiting to be uncovered right under our feet. Every new find like this one adds another piece to the vast, complex puzzle of human history. It connects us to our deepest roots and shows us that the impulse to create, to communicate, and to leave a mark on the world is as old as humanity itself. The rocks of Tingvoll have held their secrets for thousands of years, and now they are finally beginning to speak again. What other stories are they waiting to tell? Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about our amazing past. Let me know in the comments what you think these ancient carvings might mean. See you in the next video. Have you ever wondered about our most adventurous ancestor? The first one to truly leave home and explore the world. Meet Homo erectus, the trailblazer of the human family tree. For a long time, we thought we had a pretty good handle on their story. But a stunning fossil discovery from Ethiopia is completely shaking things up, rewriting what we know about our own deep past. Imagine this, a team of scientists in northern Ethiopia, in a place called the Dano Amole Basin, unearths fragments of a skull. They name it Dan 5, bit by bit, piece by piece, they realize they have something extraordinary. This isn't just any old bone. It's the face of one of our earliest ancestors staring back at us from 1.5 million years ago. Thanks to incredible digital technology, researchers have painstakingly reconstructed this ancient face, giving us the most complete look ever at a Homo erectus from this critical period in the Horn of Africa. And what a look it is. This face is telling us a story that's far more complex and fascinating than we ever imagined. So, who was Homo erectus? These weren't the hunched-over cavemen of cartoons. They walked upright, just like us. They were taller, more slender, and had brains significantly larger than their predecessors. They were master toolmakers, crafting the iconic Acheulean hand axes, the Swiss Army knife of the Stone Age, but their most defining trait, their wanderlust. Homo erectus was the first hominin to migrate out of Africa, spreading across Asia and into Europe. They were the original globetrotters, adapting to new environments and climates, a feat that set the stage for our own species, Homo sapiens, to eventually conquer the planet. For decades, the prevailing theory was that a single, relatively uniform species of Homo erectus emerged in Africa and then began its global journey. We based this idea on fossils found across the continent, from South Africa to Tanzania. But Dan 5 throws a fascinating wrench into that neat and tidy story. When scientists compared the reconstructed face of Dan 5 to other Homo erectus fossils, they found something surprising. It didn't quite match the classic African specimens like the famous Turkana boy from Kenya. Instead, it shared some intriguing similarities with much younger Homo erectus fossils found thousands of miles away in Asia, specifically in places like Tbilisi, Georgia. This discovery suggests that early Homo erectus in Africa wasn't a single homogeneous group. Instead, it was likely a diverse collection of populations, each with its own subtle physical variations. Think of it like modern human populations, we're all one species. But people from different parts of the world have distinct physical features. It seems the same was true for our ancient ancestors. The Dan5 fossil suggests there might have been multiple waves of migration out of Africa, or at least a more complex, branching pattern of movement than a simple single exodus. Perhaps different groups with slightly different features left Africa at different times, taking separate paths. The group that Dan5 belonged to might have been one of many distinct populations coexisting in Africa around 1.5 million years ago. This idea of diversity is incredibly important. It paints a picture of a dynamic and varied evolutionary landscape. Our ancestors weren't just marching in a straight line toward modernity. They were experimenting, adapting, and diversifying. Some groups may have stayed in Africa, evolving in different directions, while others ventured out, carrying their unique set of genes and traits with them. Dan5 could represent a lineage that was living in the Horn of Africa, geographically closer to the exit ramp of the continent, and perhaps better positioned to make that leap into Eurasia. The reconstruction process itself is a marvel of modern science. The skull was in pieces. Using high-resolution CT scans, researchers created virtual 3D models of each fragment. Then, like a high-tech jigsaw puzzle, they digitally reassembled the face, mirroring missing parts from the existing ones and using anatomical landmarks to guide them. This non-invasive technique allowed them to see the face of Dan5 in stunning detail, without ever damaging the precious original fossil. It's a perfect blend of old bones and new technology, unlocking secrets that have been buried for over 1 million years. The face of Dan5 reveals a combination of features. It has the prominent brow ridge and low brain case we expect from Homo erectus. But its facial structure is less massive, more delicate than some of its African contemporaries. This mosaic of traits is precisely what makes it such a crucial piece of the puzzle. It acts as a bridge, connecting different groups of hominins across time and space. So, what does this all mean for our human story? It means our family tree is more of a tangled bush than a straight ladder. It's filled with diverse branches, dead ends, and surprising connections. The journey of Homo erectus out of Africa wasn't a simple, one-off event, but likely a long, drawn-out process involving different populations, each contributing to the rich tapestry of human evolution. The Dan5 fossil is a powerful reminder that there is still so much to discover beneath our feet. Every new find has the potential to rewrite history and deepen our understanding of where we came from. It shows us that our ancestors were adaptable, resilient, and far more diverse than we ever gave them credit for. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving and exploring, driven by a curiosity that we've clearly inherited. This discovery from the heart of Ethiopia is more than just an old skull. It's a window into a pivotal moment in our shared history, a time when our lineage took its first bold steps onto the world stage. And it proves that the story of us is a grand, sprawling epic, with new, thrilling chapters still waiting to be unearthed. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you're as fascinated by our human origins as I am, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the mysteries of our past. See you next time.